So here's the question we're going to visit next. What are effective leaders doing differently now compared to before the pandemic? So to answer this, we focused on the top 25% in overall leadership effectiveness. And then we matched them again, right, to make sure that differences have to do with time period and nothing else. Uh, and then we asked, what are the differences between these two groups? Which behaviors are they emphasizing differently? So do pre-pandemic leaders emphasize certain behaviors more than post-pandemic leaders do? And do post-pandemic leaders do post-pandemic leaders emphasize certain behaviors more than pre-pandemic leaders did, right? So we're looking at differences in emphasis. Let's start by looking at which behaviors pre-pandemic leaders were using more than post-pandemic leaders are using now. So pre-pandemic leaders, there we go, we're placing more emphasis on a forceful and assertive approach to leadership, kind of a more authoritative approach. They push to achieve and set ambitious goals for themselves and for others around them to a greater degree than pandemic leaders are doing now. They spent time being frank and direct and letting people know where they stand in a straightforward way. They place greater emphasis on persuading and winning people over. And they emphasize the practice of being influential, taking command, and using opportunities to be in charge. Okay. So now that we know this about pre-pandemic leaders, let's look at what behaviors post-pandemic leaders are using more than pre-pandemic leaders used. They are deferring to more senior leaders for guidance and relying on their opinion and organizational norms when making decisions and things like that. They spend more time helping others and compromising, sometimes putting their team's interests first. They place more emphasis on seeking out the opinions of others and actually using others' input. And they spend more time planning for the future and thinking about the broad implications of their decisions. Okay. So now that you've seen both of these, you might start to notice some themes in these lists of behaviors. So the pre-pandemic leader, effective pre-pandemic leader looked more assertive and results-oriented, whereas the effective post-pandemic leader is more cooperative and connected. It's as if the pre-pandemic leader was saying, this is the way, let's get it done. And the post-pandemic effective leader is saying, we're looking forward together. Okay, so two slightly different approaches to leadership. Now, Tricia will dive into how these findings, how to apply these findings and what they mean. But a word of caution before we get to that part. This research doesn't suggest that we tell leaders to mimic the person on the right and erase any similarity to the person on the left. In fact, the behaviors emphasized more by pre-pandemic leaders are still important and necessary in many contexts, right? So what leaders might want to consider to be effective is using them less frequently by turning up the dial on the behaviors emphasized by leaders on the right.